1. Memorize of new words. Graded reader. Improve your English. Learn English through stories. Fluency in English is something many people want to achieve. It is a goal that requires time, patience, and consistent effort. When I was a young student, I wanted to speak English very well. I wanted to communicate fluently and express myself with confidence. However, I was shy and I often made mistakes when I tried to speak. These mistakes made me feel embarrassed, and I began to doubt myself. I wondered if I would ever be able to speak English fluently. One day, my teacher said something that changed my perspective. She said, "You can be fluent if you practice every day." These words stayed with me and gave me hope. They were simple, but they carried a powerful message. I realized that fluency is not something that happens overnight. It is not a gift that some people are born with. It is something that you must work for, step by step, day by day. This realization helped me understand that mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, and they should not stop me from trying. Learning English is like planting a tree. When you plant a seed in the ground, you cannot expect it to grow into a tall tree immediately. You must take care of it every day. You water it, make sure it gets enough sunlight, and protect it from harm. If you are patient and consistent, the seed will eventually grow into a strong and healthy tree. Fluency in English works in the same way. You begin with small steps like learning a few words or phrases. Over time, these small efforts build up, and your skills grow stronger. When I started practicing English, I made a plan. I decided to practice a little every day. I spoke to my classmates in English even if I made mistakes. I listened to English stories, songs, and conversations. At first, it was difficult. I felt nervous and unsure of myself. Sometimes I wanted to give up because I felt like I was not making any progress. But I remembered what my teacher had said, and I kept practicing. Slowly, I began to notice changes. I started to understand more words, and I could speak with more confidence. One important thing I learned during my journey is that fluency is not just about knowing many words. It is about using the words you know in a clear and confident way. Even if your vocabulary is small, you can still communicate effectively if you speak with confidence and clarity. For example, if you do not know a specific word, you can explain it using other words. This skill is very important because it helps you keep the conversation going, even when you face challenges. Another lesson I learned is that practice does not have to be boring. There are many fun ways to practice English. For example, you can listen to your favorite songs and try to sing along. You can watch movies or shows in English and repeat the sentences you hear. You can also read simple stories and try to understand the meaning. These activities not only help you improve your English, but they also make the learning process enjoyable. When you enjoy what you are doing, it becomes easier to stay motivated. I also realized that it is important to celebrate small successes. Every time I learned a new word or understood a sentence I could not understand before, I felt proud of myself. These small victories gave me the confidence to keep going. They reminded me that progress is possible, even if it is slow. It is important to remember that everyone learns at their own pace. Some people may learn quickly, while others may take more time. The most important thing is to stay patient and never give up. During my journey to fluency, I met many students who faced similar challenges. Some of them felt discouraged because they thought they were not improving fast enough. I always told them the same thing. Do not compare yourself to others. Focus on your own progress. Learning a language is a personal journey, and everyone's experience is different. What matters most is the effort you put in and the progress you make over time. One day, I met a student who was very sad. She told me, "I want to speak English, but I always forget the words." I smiled and said, "Do not worry. Forgetting words is normal. Fluency is not about remembering every word. It is about practicing and using the language regularly." I shared my own experience with her and encouraged her to keep practicing. Over time, she became more confident, and her fluency improved. Fluency in English is not just a skill. It is a journey. Like any journey, it requires preparation, determination, and patience. There will be moments when you feel stuck or discouraged, but it is important to keep moving forward. Every small step you take brings you closer to your goal. One day you will look back and see how far you have come. You will realize that all your hard work and dedication were worth it. Learning English is a process that takes time and effort. It is not about being perfect. It is about making progress. Mistakes are a natural part of learning, and they help you grow. By practicing every day, staying patient, and celebrating your successes, you can achieve fluency. Remember, fluency is like planting a tree. If you take care of it and nurture it, it will grow strong and flourish. So, keep practicing, stay motivated, and never give up on your journey to fluency. One day, a student came to me, and she looked very sad. She said, "Teacher, I want to speak English. I want to speak well, but I always forget the words. Every time I try, the words disappear from my mind." Her eyes were full of sadness and worry. She thought that because she forgot words, she could never become fluent in English. She felt as if the door to fluency was closed for her. I smiled at her kindly and said, "Do not worry. You can still become fluent. Fluency is not about remembering every word all the time. It is about practice. The more you practice, the more you improve. Do not let fear stop you." The student looked at me with hope in her eyes and asked, "But how can I practice? Where can I practice? I do not know what to do." Her voice was filled with confusion, and she seemed unsure of how to start. I could see that she wanted to learn, but she did not have the confidence to take the first step. I told her, "Practice is everywhere. You can practice in many ways. It does not have to be perfect, and it does not have to be difficult. Practice is all around you, and you can make it a part of your daily life." Here are the ways I explained to her. Practice by talking to your friends, I said. You can practice English by talking to your friends. Find a friend who is also learning English and try to have short conversations with them. Talk about simple things like your favorite food or what you did yesterday. It does not matter if you make mistakes. The important thing is that you are speaking and trying. I explained to her that speaking with friends is fun, and it helps her get used to using English in real conversations. Practice by listening to stories, I said. Listening is a very good way to practice. Find English stories to listen to. They can be short stories, simple ones, or even children's books. When you listen to stories, you learn how words are used together, and you hear the correct pronunciation. This helps you remember the words better. I also told her that stories are interesting, and they make learning enjoyable. When you enjoy learning, you do it more often. Practice by singing songs, I told her. If you like music, you can practice by singing English songs. Choose songs with clear and simple lyrics. Sing along. And do not worry if you cannot sing perfectly. The goal is not to be a great singer. The goal is to practice your English in a fun way. Songs can help you remember words and phrases because they stay in your mind. After explaining these methods, I shared a story from my own life. I said, when I was in school, I loved stories. Every night, my teacher would read stories to us, and I would listen carefully. Then I would try to repeat the words. At first, I was very slow, and it was hard for me to remember everything. But I did not give up. I kept listening and repeating. Day by day, my speed improved, and I started to feel more confident. I learned many new words just by listening to stories. Over time, I became better at speaking English. The student listened to my story and said, "It sounds like you practiced a lot, teacher. But what if I get bored? What if I do not have anyone to talk to?" I understood her worry, so I gave her some more ideas. Practice by watching videos, I said. If you feel bored or do not have anyone to talk to, you can watch videos in English. Find videos about something you like, such as animals, cooking, or sports. Watch them and try to understand what the person is saying. Pause the video and repeat the words you hear. This is a very good way to practice when you are alone. Practice by writing, I added. Another way to practice is by writing. You can write simple sentences or short paragraphs about your day. For example, write about what you ate for breakfast or what you plan to do tomorrow. Writing helps you think in English, and it is a good way to remember new words. You do not need to write long essays. Just write a little every day. Practice by reading, I told her. Reading is also a way to practice. Start with books that are easy for you to understand. Look for books with pictures and simple sentences. When you find a new word, write it down and look up its meaning. Then try to use that word in a sentence later. Reading helps you see how English works, and it shows you how sentences are made. The student nodded and said, "Thank you, teacher. These ideas are very helpful. But I still feel nervous when I speak. What can I do about that?" I replied, "It is normal to feel nervous, especially when you are just starting. But the more you practice, the less nervous you will feel. Remember, making mistakes is part of learning. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. Do not be afraid to speak. Even if you forget a word, keep talking. Use simple words to explain what you mean." I also said, "Imagine learning English is like learning to ride a bicycle. At first, it feels scary and you might fall. But if you keep trying, you will get better. One day, you will ride the bicycle without thinking about it." The same is true for English. If you practice every day, it will become easier and more natural. The student smiled and said, "I will try, teacher. I will start practicing every day. I want to become better at speaking English." Her smile showed me that she felt more confident and ready to take the first step. Before she left, I gave her one last piece of advice. I said, "Do not try to do everything at once. Start small. Choose one or two ways to practice and focus on them. For example, listen to one story every day or write 5 sentences about your day. It is better to practice a little every day than to practice a lot in one day and then stop. Fluency is a journey, not a race. Take your time and enjoy the process." The student thanked me and left with a determined look on her face. I knew that she was ready to start her journey to fluency, one small step at a time. I felt proud of her because she was willing to try, even though she felt nervous. This is the key to success in learning any language. Practice, patience, and persistence. When you practice regularly, you will see progress. You will feel more confident, and you will become better at speaking English. Remember, fluency is not about being perfect. It is about trying, learning, and improving every day. With time and effort, you can achieve your goal. Practice truly makes perfect. Fluency in English is not just about speaking quickly. Many people think that if they speak fast, they are fluent. However, this is not true. Fluency is about speaking clearly so that other people can understand you. It is also about having confidence when you speak. When you speak with confidence, people will listen to you, even if you do not use many words or speak very quickly. I remember a student who once asked me, "Teacher, is fluency only about speaking fast?" He thought that if he could talk fast, everyone would think he was fluent. I told him, no, fluency is not just about speed. It is about clarity. You need to make sure that other people can understand you. If you speak too quickly and nobody understands, then your words are not effective. There was once a boy in my class who spoke very fast. He talked so quickly that his classmates could not follow what he was saying. Even though he used many English words, his communication was not effective because his speed made it difficult for others to understand. One day I told him, slow down when you speak. Take your time and use simple words. When you speak slowly and clearly, people will understand you better. At first, the boy found it hard to change his way of speaking. He was used to talking very fast, and slowing down felt strange to him. However, he listened to my advice and started practicing. Every day, he made an effort to speak more clearly. He also began using shorter sentences and simpler words. Over time, his classmates started to understand him better. He felt more confident because people were now able to follow what he was saying. This experience taught him an important lesson. Clarity is more important than speed when it comes to fluency. Speaking clearly does not mean speaking perfectly. You do not need to use big or complicated words to be fluent. In fact, using simple words often makes your message stronger. When you use simple words, your listeners can understand you more easily. For example, instead of saying, "I require assistance to resolve this issue," you can say, "I need help to solve this problem." Both sentences mean the same thing, but the second one is easier to understand. Another important part of fluency is confidence. Confidence means believing in yourself and your ability to communicate. When you feel confident, your voice becomes stronger, and your words flow more easily. Many students feel nervous when they speak English because they are afraid of making mistakes. They think that other people will laugh at them or judge them. This fear stops them from speaking, and it becomes harder for them to practice. I tell my students that making mistakes is a normal part of learning. Nobody learns a language without making mistakes. In fact, mistakes are a good thing because they help you learn. Every time you make a mistake, you discover something new. For example, if you use the wrong word, someone might correct you, and you will remember the correct word next time. Mistakes are like stepping stones that help you move forward. One of my students was very shy. She always stayed quiet in class because she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. She thought that if she made a mistake, her classmates would laugh at her. One day I told her it is okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes when they are learning. The important thing is to keep trying. To help her feel more comfortable, I gave her a small task. I asked her to say one simple sentence in English every day. First, she was nervous, but she followed my advice. She started with very basic sentences like, "My name is Maria," or "I like apples." Over time, she became more confident. She realized that her classmates were supportive and wanted to help her. Her confidence grew, and she started speaking more in class. This small change made a big difference in her fluency. Fluency is not just about speaking clearly and confidently. It is also about enjoying the process of learning. If you try to rush and become fluent quickly, you might feel stressed or frustrated. Learning a language is a journey, and it takes time. You need to take one step at a time and enjoy the process. For example, if you learn one new word today, celebrate it. If you can say a sentence without hesitation, feel proud of yourself. These small achievements are important because they show that you are making progress. One day, a student asked me, "Teacher, how long will it take for me to become fluent?" I told him, it depends on how much you practice and how patient you are. Some people become fluent in a few months while others take years. The important thing is not how fast you become fluent, but how much you enjoy the journey. If you enjoy learning, you will keep going, and you will reach your goal. Another student told me, "Teacher, I feel like I am not improving. I have been practicing for weeks, but I still make mistakes." I said to him, "Fluency is like climbing a mountain. When you are climbing, it feels hard, and you cannot see how far you have come. But if you stop and look back, you will see that you have already climbed a long way. Think about the words and sentences you can say now that you could not say before. That is progress. I also explained to my students that fluency is a personal journey. Everyone learns at their own pace, and that is okay. Some people are naturally faster learners, while others take more time. The key is to focus on your own progress and not compare yourself to others. Remember that every small step brings you closer to your goal. To help my students practice speaking clearly, I often give them simple exercises. For example, I ask them to describe a picture in English. They have to use simple words to explain what they see. This exercise helps them practice speaking clearly and using the words they already know. It also builds their confidence because they realize that they can express themselves, even with a limited vocabulary. I also encourage my students to practice speaking about things they love. When you talk about something you enjoy, it is easier to find the words. For example, one of my students loved football. He would talk about his favorite team, the players, and the matches he watched. Because he was excited about the topic, his words flowed more naturally. This helped him practice speaking in a relaxed and enjoyable way. In conclusion, fluency is not about speaking quickly. It is about speaking clearly, confidently, and effectively. You do not need to use big words or long sentences to be fluent. Simple words and clear sentences are often the most powerful. Confidence is also very important because it helps you express yourself without fear. Finally, remember to enjoy the process of learning. Fluency takes time, but every step you take brings you closer to your goal. Celebrate your progress, and do not be afraid to make mistakes. With patience and practice, you can become fluent in English. The secret to fluency in English is simple. It is not something complicated or magical. The secret is to listen. Listening is one of the most powerful ways to learn a language. When you listen carefully, you hear how words are pronounced, how sentences are formed, and how ideas are expressed. Listening helps you understand the rhythm and flow of English. It is like learning music. The more you listen, the more you understand, and the better you become at using the language. I often tell my students, listen to others speak English as much as you can. Listen to stories, songs, conversations, and even the sounds of daily life in English. The more you listen, the more you will learn. One of my students asked me, "Teacher, how can I listen to English when I do not live in an English-speaking country?" I smiled and said, there are many ways to listen to English. You can find English stories and videos online. You can listen to English songs or watch movies. Even if you do not understand everything, just listening will help you. I remember a girl in my class who loved music. She would listen to English songs every day. At first, she did not understand all the words, but she enjoyed the music and kept listening. Slowly, she began to understand the lyrics. She even started singing along with the songs. This made her pronunciation better and helped her learn new words. She told me, "Teacher, I did not know I could learn so much just by listening to songs. Now I feel more confident when I speak English." Listening is not just about understanding words. It is also about learning how people express themselves. For example, when you listen to a story, you hear how the speaker uses emotions and tone to make the story interesting. This helps you learn how to use your voice when you speak English. One of my students once told me, "Teacher, when I listen to stories, I feel like I am part of the story. It makes me want to tell my own stories in English." Another important thing about listening is that it helps you think in English. When you hear English often, your brain starts to get used to the language. You begin to understand sentences without translating them into your own language. This is a big step toward fluency. I had a student who always translated everything in his head before speaking. This made him slow and confused. I told him, Try to listen to English every day. Do not worry about translating. Just focus on understanding the meaning. After a few weeks, he told me, "Teacher, I can now understand some sentences without translating." It feels amazing. Listening also helps you improve your vocabulary. When you hear new words, you can write them down and look up their meanings later. Then, try to use those words in your own sentences. I had a student who kept a small notebook with her. Every time she heard a new word, she wrote it down. She told me, "Teacher, this notebook is like my treasure. Every word I learn makes me feel more fluent." One day, a student asked me, "Teacher, what if I do not understand what I am listening to? Should I stop?" I said, "No, do not stop. Keep listening. Even if you do not understand everything, your brain is still learning. Over time, you will understand more and more. Be patient with yourself. Mistakes are also an important part of learning. When you listen and try to speak, you might make mistakes. That is okay. Mistakes are like lessons. They show you what you need to improve. I remember a student who was very afraid of making mistakes. She told me, "Teacher, I do not want to speak because I might say something wrong." I told her, "Do not be afraid. Every mistake you make is a step toward fluency. The more you practice, the better you will become." Another key to fluency is repetition. When you listen to something several times, you remember it better. For example, if you listen to a story today, listen to it again tomorrow. Each time you listen, you will understand more. Repetition helps you build a strong foundation in English. I had a student who loved listening to the same story every night. She said, "Teacher, every time I listen to the story, I learn something new. It makes me feel like I am improving." Listening is not just about using your ears. It is also about paying attention. When you listen carefully, you notice details like pronunciation, grammar, and sentence structure. These details help you understand how English works. One of my students told me, "Teacher, when I started listening carefully, I realized how much I was missing before. Now I feel more connected to the language." Fluency also comes from enjoying what you listen to. If you like what you are listening to, you will want to do it more often. For example, if you enjoy cooking, listen to cooking shows in English. If you love sports, listen to sports commentaries. When you listen to something you enjoy, learning feels fun and easy. One of my students loved movies. She would watch one English movie every week. At first, she used subtitles to understand the story. After some time, she started watching without subtitles. She told me, "Teacher, I feel like I am part of the movie. It makes learning English exciting." Listening can also help you improve your speaking skills. When you listen, you hear how words are spoken. You can then practice saying those words yourself. Try to repeat what you hear. This is called shadowing. For example, if you are listening to a conversation, pause after each sentence and repeat it. This helps you improve your pronunciation and confidence. I had a student who practiced shadowing every day. She said, "Teacher, I feel like I am speaking with the person in the recording. It makes me feel more fluent." In conclusion, listening is the secret to fluency. It helps you understand the language, improve your vocabulary, and build your confidence. It also makes learning fun and enjoyable. Remember to listen to English every day, even if it is just for a few minutes. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your progress. Fluency takes time, but with listening, practice, and persistence, you can achieve your goal. So, keep listening, keep learning, and enjoy the journey to fluency in English. Fluency in English is not only about speaking and listening. It is also about confidence and finding ways to enjoy the process of learning. One of the most effective ways to build fluency is by practicing every day and creating opportunities to use English in real life. This is where small habits and routines can make a big difference. I once had two students who were best friends. They both wanted to improve their English, but they were shy about speaking. I told them, why not speak to each other in English every day? They agreed, and from that day forward, they made a rule. They would only talk to each other in English. At first, it was difficult for them. They made mistakes, and sometimes they laughed at how strange their sentences sounded. But they did not give up. Every day, they practiced together. Over time, their confidence grew, and they became much more fluent. They told me, "Teacher, speaking English with each other helped us so much. We learned new words, and now we feel more comfortable speaking." Practicing with a friend is a wonderful way to improve your fluency. When you practice with someone you trust, you feel less nervous about making mistakes. You can help each other and learn together. If you do not have a friend who is learning English, you can still practice by talking to yourself. This might sound strange, but it is a very helpful exercise. You can describe what you are doing, think out loud in English, or even imagine that you are having a conversation with someone. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Another way to improve your fluency is by using English in real-life situations. For example, when you go to the market, try to speak in English. If you see something you do not know the name of, describe it in English. You can say, "I am looking for something round and red." If you cannot remember the word apple, this helps you practice thinking in English and finding ways to communicate even when you do not know every word. One of my students worked in a small shop. He decided to speak only in English with his customers. At first, it was difficult for him, but he kept trying. After a few weeks, he felt more confident, and his fluency improved. He said, "Speaking English at work made me think in English all the time. It was hard at first, but now it feels easier." Fluency is not just about using the language. It is also about being curious and learning new things. Every time you hear a new word, do not ignore it. Find out what it means and try to use it in a sentence. This is how your vocabulary grows. I remember a student who was very curious. Whenever he heard a new word, he would write it down and ask me about it in class. Then he would use that word as many times as possible during the day. This habit helped him learn new words quickly and use them naturally in conversations. It is also important to have a clear goal. Ask yourself, why do I want to be fluent in English? When you have a goal, it gives you a reason to keep going, even when learning feels difficult. I had a student who wanted to travel to an English-speaking country. She practiced every day because she wanted to be ready for her trip. Her goal kept her motivated, and she became fluent before she traveled. Having a goal helps you stay focused and makes the process of learning more meaningful. One of the best ways to learn English is by doing something you enjoy. For example, if you love movies, watch English movies. If you enjoy reading, choose simple English books. I had a student who loved watching English movies. At first, she used subtitles to understand the story. After some time, she started watching without subtitles. She told me, "Teacher, watching movies helped me so much. I learned new words, and now I understand conversations better." When you do something you love, learning feels fun and less like work. Another helpful practice is repetition. The more you repeat something, the better you remember it. For example, if you learn a new word today, try to use it in a sentence tomorrow. Then use it again the next day. This helps you remember the word and makes it a part of your everyday vocabulary. I had a student who loved repeating sentences. He would hear a phrase in class and say it over and over again. This practice helped him remember the sentences and use them in real conversations. He said, "Repeating sentences made me feel more confident when I spoke." Fluency is also about speaking with different people. Every person has a unique way of speaking. When you talk to different people, you learn new words, phrases, and styles of speaking. I once had a student who was very shy. He only spoke to me in class. I encouraged him to talk to other students. At first, he was nervous, but with time he became more comfortable. He told me, talking to different people helped me learn new ways of saying things. It made me feel more fluent. Sometimes it is helpful to talk about topics you love. When you speak about something you enjoy, the words come more easily. I had a student who loved football. Every day he would talk to me about his favorite team and the matches he watched. Because he was excited about the topic, his words flowed naturally. This helped him practice speaking in a relaxed and enjoyable way. Fluency is not about knowing every word. It is about finding ways to express yourself, even when you do not know a specific word. If you do not know a word, try to describe it or use other words to explain what you mean. I had a student who always wanted to know the exact word for everything. When he did not know a word, he would stop speaking. I told him, if you do not know the word, describe it. Keep the conversation going. This advice helped him stay calm and confident when speaking. Another way to improve fluency is by practicing in front of a mirror. When you see yourself speaking, you become more aware of your expressions and gestures. This helps you feel more confident. I had a student who was very shy. She did not like speaking in front of others. I told her to practice in front of a mirror. She said, at first, it felt strange. But now I feel more confident when I speak. Sometimes your brain needs a rest. It is important to take breaks when you are practicing. One of my students practiced all the time. She became very tired and started to feel frustrated. I told her, take a break, relax, and come back tomorrow with a fresh mind. After taking breaks, she felt better, and her fluency improved. Fluency is also about using English in creative ways. You can write a short story, sing a song, or even make a video. I had a student who loved writing. She wrote short stories in English every day. This helped her practice new words and sentences. She said, writing stories made me feel more connected to the language. In conclusion, fluency is a mix of many things: speaking, listening, practicing, and enjoying the process. It is about being curious, setting goals, and finding creative ways to learn. Remember to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Fluency takes time, but with patience and practice, you can achieve your goal. Keep learning, keep speaking, and enjoy your journey to fluency in English.